Yo, what's up, guys? Um, I was perusing through some YouTube videos trying to figure out what the best possible Life Wizard set was for level 80, and I couldn't find anything really that great. There were a lot of wizards that had like 58 damage and like a decent amount of resist, um, and like a decent amount of critical and some healing, but nothing was really fantastic, I guess, whenever I was kind of looking at everything. So I figured I'd go to make my own video because honestly, this set's ridiculous, and this set is kind of made to smack all the haters of Life Wizards that say that we can't do any damage. This level 80 life set deals over 100 damage, and if you do it correctly, you'll have over 110 damage and still have a ton of resist. So without further ado, let's go and take a look at this. So first off, in our house we got Crown of the System, 302 health, 3 power pips, 7% resist, 2% life accuracy, 72 crit, and 18% damage. This hat, compared to the Waterworks hat, um, does give a little bit less power pip chance, a little bit less resist, but it does give the accuracy, gives a lot more crit, and it does give it a little bit more damage. So that's what I'm going with the Crown of the System. For the robe, we have a couple of options here. So right now, just for stitching purposes, I have the Cape of Esprit on. This is the Waterworks robe, and it gives us 21% life damage, which is freaking awesome. However, there is a robe that does a little bit more damage, and that would be the Robe of the Sistrum. So if you kind of compare these two, get a little bit less health, get a little less power pip. You do get that 2% accuracy with the System robe. You lose 2% resistance, but you get seven more critical and 2% more damage. Yes, you do lose a little bit of incoming too, but you do get that Mass Life Prism card. So if you are going for strict damage and a little bit extra crit, I would go with the Robe of the System. Um, for all intents and purposes of getting a little bit more damage for right now, we're just going to go ahead and equip that real quick. I know the stitch is not great, uh, but we'll take a look at our stats here at the end. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. For the boots, okay, for those of you that don't spend crowns, um, these boots are not for you. Um, However, there are a boot. If you want to go and get some pretty awesome boots, I would just go for the um, the boots of Esprit. Just because Waterworks boots, a little difficult to get, but they're still a pretty solid option. But these ancient Purrzian Galeshes are incredible for damage. 332 health, 5 power pip chance, 41 crit, 10% resistance, 20% life damage, and you get a couple choke cards. This is a little kind of extra um, all around usage. Uh, but yeah, these boots are incredible. Absolutely incredible. They are level 80 boots. The level 70 boots, I believe, give 19% life damage. Not too sure about that, but they're still a pretty solid option for anything below 80 as well. Another option that you can go with is the Wysteria boots. They give, I believe, 17% life damage, and they give a couple virulent plague cards. So it kind of depends on how you want to run that. It does give you a little bit extra crit too, and goes with storm damage and death damage. So however you're running your mastery, um, well, like your second school, you can kind of pick which school you want to kind of go with there. But yeah, so I'm going with the Ancient Purrzian Galesh because this does give the highest amount of life damage that I have found for level 80 wizards. Um, and it does give a decent amount of resist too. So go with the Ancient Purrzian Galeshes there. For our wand, we got the Wysteria Warrior's Longsword. 68 crit, 11% death damage, 11% life damage, and 14% storm damage. What we're really going there is the 11% life damage and that critical. Um, it's also nice having that Super Jolt spell, so you can get rid of weaknesses, you can get rid of um, Efreets, that minus 90%. So it does kind of give you a little options to get rid of those weaknesses and get rid of those extra minuses that you might run across. So, there's that. For our Athame, we have Claw of the Spirit Wolf. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is the best one you could possibly go with, but this is what I'm using right now. It does give that 4% universal damage, 15% power up chance, 12% outgoing, so you do kind of get that little bit of healing there. Now, the Socketed Jewels definitely could be much better. I have a 3 critical rating jewel in there, 74 health, 3% life pierce, and 7% power hit chance. I would rather go with another piercing jewel rather than that 3 critical. That 3 critical really doesn't mean anything to me. So I would go with another piercing jewel just so I can pierce through more fortifies, more shields, so on and so forth. So if you are to run Claw of the Spirit Wolf, I would go for more of a piercing jewel there instead of the critical. But that's what I have for right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the amulets. Right now I'm using Children of the Sea Medallion. It does give us that 35% hex, which I think is pretty nice. And it gives us 2 jewel slots. Ignore that 11 health. I need to find another higher tier, another tier gem, tier jewel. And we have that 18% universal resist, which is kind of nice. And there's a lot of different square sockets in these, in the Athame, the amulet, and the rings. And even the decks too, that kind of give you a little bit extra resistance to a lot of these spells, especially DOTs. If you don't want to go with the Children of the Sea Medallion, you're looking for a little bit more healing, you could go with Amulet of the Third Sun. It does give you a little bit extra health, and it does give you a square socket if you want to do a little bit more resistance, plus you get that Guiding Light card. So, those would be the 2 amulets that I would go with. Just for doing strict damage, though, I would go with Children of the Sea Medallion. But if you're looking for a little bit more all-around play with life, you can go with the Amulet of the Third Sun. So, for our ring, we have the Jade Ring of Battle. There isn't a better ring that you can get up until this point than Jade Ring of Battle. That 7% damage, that 7 block, 14% power pip chance, you're not going to find anything better than that. You're really not. Got that tier jewel, again, for more health. I have a 13 life damage jewel in there for the circle. Again, you can replace it with more pierce if you want, or if you want to go for some critical, that's a-okay too. And then I go for more universal resist for that square socket. If you're wondering where you get those universal resist jewels, you can go in and get them for arena tickets back in Unicorn Way. I find that very, very useful. Now, before we get to this pet, everything that we've done so far is giving you like around 80-ish damage without the pet. The pet that I'm about to show you is a failure, but not. So when I was originally going for this pet, I was going for triple damage, double resist, just kind of standard, and ended up with something a little bit more damage based than resist based. So you can kind of configure your pet however you want to with this. But here's the pet that I have. And yes, it is Snuggles. This is a Kookaburra, which is for Life School only. It gives a Life Play, Leaf Storm, and a Regenerate card at Epic. But we have quad damage on this with a Spell Defy. And then for the socket really didn't do anything for us. It didn't give us any extra damage. I just kind of have that as a socket in there. Just kind of because. However, you can put a spell-proof gem in that socket and give you an extra 10% resist. So, with this pet alone, you can get 25% extra damage and 15% universal resist, which I think is pretty freaking awesome. Plus the Life card. Plus, if you get this pet early on, you can get that Leaf Storm card, because you're not going to get any universal damage until you get to like level 58 and get Forest Lord. So Leaf Storm's absolutely incredible, especially at 4 pips. Plus that Regenerate card is actually a little helpful too, especially because it's an item card. So, but this is a pet that I would go for, especially if you're just going for overall damage and a little bit of versatility because of that Lifeblade card. Now, if you are going to go for a little bit extra damage, I don't have a Life Ghulture, but you can get an extra 3% damage from a Life Ghulture to kind of boost your sets a little bit. And for our deck, I am going with not this deck, not the Deck of Nature's Bounty, but I am going with the Armillary deck. You can buy this deck from one of the vendors in Avalon. As soon as you get to as soon as you open the door, you get into Caliburn. There is a deck vendor that sells this deck with a triangle slot, which I think is the most important thing here. It has a triangle slot, which you can either put power pip gems in there, or like what I did with accuracy, just to make sure I had 100% accuracy. Because I don't want to fizzle. The other option you can go for, back in the House of Scales, which is where you get like the Crown of the Sistrum, where you get the Robe Sistrum, so on and so forth. There's a Stone Key boss there that drops 1% accuracy decks. So you can go back and get the life 1% accuracy deck with a triangle socket. The deck comes with all 4 sockets as an option. So you could fail, get the 1% deck, and get like a circle socket. So you need to farm and get the triangle socket. I have never even gotten one of the 1% decks, but it is an option. But like I said, it does cost stone keys. But that would be the best deck that you could go for at level 80, which is still a level 60 deck. But that's the entire loadout. Let's go and take a look at our stats real quick. With all this said, we have 109% damage as a life, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Just saying. And actually, hold on, we don't have the correct deck equipped. Let's try that. There we go. So 109% damage, which I think is insane. And then we have 32% universal resist. But if you get that Spell-Defy Jewel on that pet, this goes up to 42% resist and 36 extra resist, which kind of lowers it, especially those DOTs. And we have 100% accuracy. Now, the one thing that we definitely lack with this setup is critical. And we have a 29% critical rating, which isn't high. It really isn't. But it can kind of get you by, especially with the 109% damage, though. You don't need to crit that often. Lives aren't meant to crit that often anyway. So, just to kind of put that into perspective. So again, you can get that resistance up to 42% with an extra 36 resist. No fizzle chance, except if you're using Pigsy. 29% critical rating. A 1% block, but you don't need to really worry about that. And you could have 6% armor piercing, 12% outgoing healing, and a 90% power pip chance. So I'll be honest, this is probably the absolute best setup you could possibly have for a Life Wizard, especially if you're soloing. You can even get this over to 112% damage if you have that Life Ghulture. So, like I said, this set's ridiculous. Especially if you can train those pets. Make sure you train them during double pet XP. I don't have any other words than that. This set's ridiculous. I don't even see some storms having this much damage at level 80. Even level 90. So, like I said, I would definitely check this out. I'm going to try and list every single place you can get every one of these items down in the description below. Probably links to the forums. So, like I said, definitely the best life setup you could possibly have at level 80. So, with that being said, love you guys. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to stay updated on everything that we're doing. Go and smash that like button if you liked what you saw and if you're going to use this type of setup. And be cool, guys.